Hey y'all, so you got the second war of the season here against LOXC, and this is going to be another non-tactic war for me. It seems to be how it is lining up, but that is totally okay because honestly, I have missed Carl Wars, and I kind of imagine he's not going to be tactic for a while. He's definitely proving relevant enough. So we start here with this Korg, and we're just doing our heavy counters to get our pauses because we want to get to the special 2. The important thing about this fight is to make sure that Korg does not purify any debuffs against us, and so that means no parries and no specials while he has his rock shield up. That is the whole thing. And you are going to see that that causes us a little bit of a problem here when he decides to block very quickly after that heavy attack. And so we have now lost our form. Frustrating. Clearly my timing wasn't perfect. But then, man, he also loved throwing those double mediums there. Now, it is important to note that that is not just the AI, being mean. I could have countered those mediums with lights. That is a totally valid thing that I just did not practice because I thought he was going to be easier. So I'll take the hit for that. That's what potions are for. But we go ahead and get the shield down. We throw the special 2. The special 3. It's worth noting that the special 3 actually would have been fine on its own even without the shield down because it breaks the rock shield to limit the damage first, and therefore he cannot purify the debuffs. So special 3 is quite safe in general there. But yeah, it's an Absorbing Man versus Korg fight. That would qualify as messy in Battlegrounds, but gets the job done here. And now for another Photon versus Absorbing Man fight. This is just going to pause his forms, right? Because when we knock him down, it's going to armor break him, it's going to ramp him. We don't really care about that. We don't really care about reversing the healing. You just saw right there the main reason that we do want to keep him out of his forms sometimes, right? Because if he is in his refined forms, then he is going to be able to crit through block, and that can absolutely hurt. But if we manage our misses and punishes well, then that's not really going to matter. That was an example of me not managing my miss well. I shouldn't have dashed in the middle because then it put me in a weird spot. I ended up blocking 2 hits. But you're seeing how just staying on him, staying aggressive, letting the Petrify control both the Mystic Dispersion and the healing just means we can destroy him without ever throwing a heavy attack. When I did throw a heavy attack, it was actually to get the Sunder to land more crits rather than to stop his forms. She handles him really well there. Moving on to section 2, we are on path 3. This Nimrod is a fairly common fight. And I have seen a number of people run into some trouble with Absorbing Man on path 3, specifically because of the glancing, right? They go for the regen and it glances because the opponent has a bunch of armor, and so you kind of are wasting your morph charges. My recommendation is to just never medium, light, medium on these fights. It's basically never worth it. Rely on the fact that whoever was placed is going to have an armor up, and so your form is going to be constantly paused. Stay nice and aggressive. Keep it paused. I do go refined right away. I throw my first special 1 as soon as I can, because that's going to mean that he can no longer glance my red numbers. Now, that's a somewhat incomplete description, because obviously he is triggering glancing. It's that the red numbers themselves cannot be stopped by the ability accuracy reduction in glancing, right? They can have their damage reduced by half. They are not crits, and so all of that is going to reduce the damage, but we are just consistently landing those bursts against him because we were refined. We allow Mystic Dispersion to go ahead and take us to 3 bars. We're in no danger of losing our form before we get there, thanks to all of the prevented bleeds. And now we are not only refined and with morph charges, but now we have this huge crit bonus from the special 3, and Even though he has a 60% chance to glance and stop us from landing crits, almost every single hit outside of that was a critical hit in there, and so we did a lot of damage very quickly. Now, right there is where a lot of people would be tempted to medium, light, medium and try and, place those vulnerabilities. Just don't bother. You see what I did where I used the striker to heavy cancel into a special one. That's how you close out the fight, right? That is significantly more effective in my opinion. Now, if you were in a much longer fight there than Nimrod is, eventually you will get to 600 morph charges, and then I want to call out, just throw a special into the ether, not at the end of a combo, so that the special doesn't glance on activation, and you'll get the regen and the vulnerabilities anyway. You just are probably not going to get them out of medium, light, medium on that particular node. So a little bit of a deviation from normal playstyle. We get our Pierce up pretty early. We don't have to worry about any more armor ups from him. And then this just becomes a, can you evade these projectiles that totally give you enough graphical information and are not just random and invisible? It happens. I think I probably do end up blocking one of them. I always do somewhere in a fight, so expect to see some degen. I think we take a hit here. Yep, there's the power detonation. Yep, there's the one I block. But that's totally fine. This is my only Hulkling fight, and he is basically completely shut down by this Pierce. We just need to find some time to hit him again. Got plenty of charges, and there we go. Special 2 finishes it off. I didn't even bother to power back with this one. That is how you close it out nice and quickly. You just use power back boosts with Hulkling, and then the first special 2 gives you a second special 2, and I wouldn't have even taken that damage that I did, but it just wasn't necessary. We move on to Kindred on the Hazard Shift, Shock, Bleed, Conflictor Miniboss. We do have an Odin pre-fight here so that the Shock is not going to do much damage. We are, of course, immune to the Bleed. We are limiting Conflictor, which almost hurts us in this fight because it's going to mean fewer specials to punish, but at the same time you see how we are running power back boosts, and so I'm just not concerned really. We do go in and hit right there, but the pause doesn't mean anything, and so I didn't need to. I clearly accidentally went into pure light form. Didn't really realize it in the moment, so that was unfortunate. But that's okay. We're just waiting out, the Nightmare Outbreak. We get our pause here. We know we're approaching the root, but that's okay. We had enough power. We knew we were going to go above another bar there with the special 2. And so there's the root. We just wait for a moment to throw our special 1, take a little bit of damage at the end, and there we go. So Kindred is definitely spookier with Decay gone, but if you manage things properly, if you know how to punish his special attacks, and you hold on to your power to break the root, it is very possible to play around him. Power back boosts, of course, help, but even without them, it is quite doable. You just may end up breaking the root with a special 3 because it's a little bit harder to predict your damage when you're not throwing specials, right? It does interrupt people's rotations, but that is the main risk. And that was my war. I forgot to mention in the last one, we did not beat GT40. It was a rough war for both of us that first time around, but c'est la vie, new tactic. We did win this one. We, I think, brought our deaths down almost 2/3. Obviously, every defense is different, and I'm sure our deaths will go back up against other defenses in the future. But it did feel like we figured out at least some things and are continuing to improve on this tactic, and that's been a cool thing to watch. Looking forward to more of it in the future. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.